Okay, we were talking about glorifying God and serving students. So again, keep that kind of as the forefront of your mind, that that's really our goal, is to glorify God and serve students well. Um, and then most other things will fall into place if you have that kind of as your focus. So glorifying God, there's a bunch of verses there if you need to recenter and kind of think in those directions again. And then I just put a note at the bottom, that we're a team as well, just like the body of Christ. We're a team. We need every player to be at their best and with this kind of mindset. And then ask the Holy Spirit to help you with your service in Math Lab, because He'll reveal things about students or next steps if you're frustrated, and just help to give you a good attitude for Math Lab as well. I know several of the sessions start it with prayer, and that's a good way to kind of refocus yourselves as well. So I'm going to say a quick prayer for all of us to kind of do that focus for now. Father God, thank you so much for each one of these tutors, for how you've drawn together this particular team for this spring. I thank you for each one, and pray that you would bless them through this crazy startup week, that they would be grounded in you and know that you're a firm foundation no matter what's going on around them. And then guide them and refocus them each time they kind of enter their session, that they will remember to treat it as service to you and service to their fellow students that they're helping through this semester. Thank you for how you can help us as well, and you can give us nudges and ways that we can have wisdom in how to best serve these students. So I praise you for each one of these students. Please protect them and guide them through the semester. And I just praise you for them and for this opportunity that lies ahead to serve students well. In your name we pray, amen. Okay, Anna, any updates?
Yes, I think everyone should have edit access to the spreadsheet now. If you still don't, just direct message me and I'll bring you access.
Okay, thanks so much. So hopefully you're taking care of that student packet. If not, make sure that you look at that first link on the tutor notes. And if you have questions as we go along, feel free to direct message, well, any of these people I'll highlight on the next page. So I think I've met all of you, at least in the interview process. So I'm the director of Math Lab and CS Lab. And then your managers are there to help you as well. So you can direct message them now, you can email them later with questions. They're going to be kind of running around in these first weeks as well, just to make sure everything's in place. But they're the ones that do a lot of work and a lot of setup. So if you have like a name tag that needs to be changed, or you see an answer key that's not in good shape or missing, or whatever you need, there's some good resources for you to know about. So email them if you have questions or needs there. You also have another team, a lead tutor team. They're going to be the point person for each session, so for each night. They make sure that they're kind of over the whole session, so they'll make sure that things are running smoothly. And they'll kind of manage things as well. So they'll be kind of watching to make sure things are going well, that tutors are engaged and things like that. So there's some great consultants as well. They're people that you can ask if you have questions, or if you don't know how to do something, or any other questions that come up. So feel free to consult with those tutors, and they will help to guide the whole evening. Room managers is the next set of tutors that are kind of in our leadership team. They're going to be managing each room. So a lead tutor is over the whole night. So they're kind of over all of the different sessions going on. And then the room managers will be managing the particular room. So in bold are the leads, because they're also room managers. And then there's some other students that are room managers for that particular room. So here's some of the summary of what the roles are. I've talked about the leads. They're the expert. They're also the communicator, the main communicator to me. So they have meetings about every other week, and we talk about special items that have come up. They also tell me about things going on in sessions. And they're also the point person for both you and for me. So they'll be sending notes at the end of each session, and including the lead or the room managers, so that they're the person that can pass on comments to me about how the session went as well. So they also have a lot to do, both leads and room managers. They're going to be setting up lots of materials and things that, especially at the beginning of the semester when everyone's not quite in the routines, they could use some extra help. So you can help by setting things up. So they'll be asking you for some help. So be ready to jump in and help them with that. And then your role, one big thing is to be professional and welcoming and having a good balance with that, that you're both being professional and mindful of your students' needs and wanting to make sure you're meeting those, but also welcoming and friendly so that students feel comfortable in the place where they're at. Wear your name tag, do other things like that, that helps students to know that you're the one that they can ask questions of, and just try to make it a generally good environment. Also, we're going to be going into more details about some of these things, but this is kind of a laundry list of top level things that you should be aware of and know. So understanding the session checklist, that's going to be a central document that we'll talk about more. Asking questions and getting help if you don't know how to do something. So speak up if something's not clear or you see something out of place, because we want to make it the best environment possible. You should know the room maps for your particular courses, and we'll talk about where to find that information in a minute. Also know where your materials are. Hopefully, if you're a new tutor, you went to one of the logistical training sessions the last 2 nights, and that hopefully helped out a lot. But if you have questions, ask your lead, they'll know where to locate things. And then, like I said previously, help get things in order and set up right away so that when the session starts, you guys are all ready to serve students well. Also understand the student-facing side of Math Lab. We'll talk a little bit more about sign-in and the student handout and things like that. But it's helpful for you to know that in case students have questions, you can be a resource for them. And then, like I mentioned previously, leaving comments. The room manager will, at the end of each session in our attendance application, leave some comments. If you leave specific comments that are about your course, it's nice if you'll kind of help the lead to put the comment in and put a dash and your name and the course that you're working with. So I know who to contact in case I need to follow up on any of the comments. That can even be for general things, like if you have a comment that I noticed X student had this need, put your name with that comment just so I know who to follow up with. And then we'll talk again a little bit more, but I'll just highlight these high level things with COVID precautions, pay attention to social distancing and masking and making sure that we're doing good with those protocols. Reminding students to sign in and out is another big deal. And then just making some bookmarks to the resources that you're going to need. So before your first session, try to just make a few bookmarks that go directly to some of the resources you might be using within a Math Lab session. So I tried to organize that a little bit. I just made this section here this morning to organize and find everything you need. So to start with, everybody right now should click on that link and see if you have access to that folder. If not, send a message to Anna to let her know you need access to that folder. Because you'll see I've kind of put the contents of the folder here, that there's kind of a lot of the central documents here. So that's a good one to bookmark, just so that you can find everything that you need. So in the folder, you're going to see the communication folders listed there first. That gives copies of communications. So like the startup letter is all I got in there right now from spring 22. So if you wanted to go back to any of those communications, you wanted to find a link from any of that, those are in that folder. Room maps is another one to check to make sure that you can get into and you can locate where your room is or where your students for your course are meeting. So you'll see, maybe I'll go into there right now. You'll see that there are some room maps folder here. If you go into that, you should be able to get into spring maps. And then you would see, for example, if I'm in spring and I'm in 113, then this is how I should make sure that I'm trying to situate my students. So this really helps so that students know, oh, if I'm a multi-student, I always kind of go to this part of the room. That will just help students to know where to go. And you should always kind of put your signs up for each course from this room map. So look at those just to locate where your students are going to be seated and where you should kind of guide them as well. The tutor checklist is another resource that's given in the same folder. It's this 0_maths blah, blah, blah. But basically, that's another document you may want to bookmark. Returning tutors should notice that this is not as gangly as it used to be. Okay, we really worked on this a lot in January, Ruth Livingston and myself, to try to make this a lot more user-friendly. So now it's only 2 pages long, and it really does have kind of the main things that you need. So up at the top, you can find, oh, we need to change that. One of the managers do that. We need the spring schedule there. And then there's other kind of commonly used links there. And then here's just kind of a quick checklist, but this gives a lot of the information that you need. And then there's additional documentation for Zoom if needed. And you can practice some of these things. If you don't have any students, which you might not in these first few sessions, come down here and practice with some other tutors, some of your Zoom skills. Well, it's making for some interesting meeting here, but I'm sorry for things exploding. um, Here we go again. Okay. So use some of your downtime to get better at some of these things at the bottom of the checklist. So Zoom documentation, like how do I make multiple instances of myself? Or how would I fix attendance at the end, mainly for leads and room managers? And then here's just some other professional development things that you can do when you're not busy. So pay attention to those things and use them throughout the session for all of these links up above, especially if you're new. This will give you a guide for things to do. But for others, just know and kind of familiarize yourself with this so you can find some of those links if needed. Okay. I think we're up to this section. So any questions up until now? Okay. Tutor training notes. So hopefully you've been keeping up with all of the training sessions, especially if you're a new tutor. But all of those are listed on the schedule. I might have to have you managers take over if this continues to happen. Not quite sure what's going on. I've had like hundreds of Zoom meetings because I'm in Zoom all day long and this hasn't happened. So I don't know why it's happening right now. We'll try again. So next time, managers keep going. You can tell me where I'm at, where you're at. Okay, beginning dates. Hopefully, you know, we start tonight. You may get some people saying that, you know, when is CS lab opening? So it's just good for you to know that that will start a little bit later. We start on February 13th. Students who are served elsewhere, sometimes we get some students trickling in at the beginning of the semester because they don't know where to go. A common one is psych stats because it sounds like we should be able to help them. However, they have their own TA hours that they prefer that their students go to. So note that if a student comes that they should ask their prof about those TA hours. Business problem solving should use business lab when we have business calc. It's not offered this semester, but we serve that in math lab. Sign in help, try to get somebody the first night to be helping with that. We used to assign somebody to that, but you guys can figure that out. Your first night, whoever's not busy, just kind of send them out by the attendance laptop. Most people will be new to math lab, so it's great to kind of help them know what to do to sign in. Pretty easy, just swiping their ID and picking their course, but watch for that. Some notes with some things that have changed for this semester. Calc courses are all on the new edition. So that will be one course book for that. Math for LED 1 and 2 are also on the same edition. Stats are only taught by ALC this semester, so there's only one book. And there's going to be a little bit more we'll talk about in the course folders about answer keys, but that's kind of good to know. We've simplified some of the things with some of those courses that were on multiple editions. General COVID protocols were considered an academic setting, so make sure that you're staying with the Bethel policies on that. All tutors and students must wear a mask. Sounds like over interim, people did great with that. So hopefully we won't have any problems. We do have a box of masks that you can put out by the laptop. So if anybody forgets, they can grab one of those to use. Watch for capacity and kind of trying to use a 6-foot distancing as much as you can. Kind of over interim, the guide that we used was to use every other seat. And that kind of helps to do that social distancing that they're trying to get. Did you go anywhere, Hannah?
Not yet, no. You can continue on, and if it happens again, I'll jump in.
Oh, so sorry. Watch for other students who might be COVID cautious. Like I've seen this in my classes as well. Respect them if they look like they want to kind of be away from others and let them have their space. If you ever need to quarantine or isolate, please notify myself and Ruth Livingston, one of our managers who works with Tutor Labs. We can work out whatever details are necessary. Sometimes we can just handle it and you can be online. And Tutor, obviously, if you're sick, let us know, get a sub for yourself. We have procedures for that also. But as soon as you get a message that you need to be quarantining or isolating, make sure you communicate with us about that early so that we can make any arrangements needed for keeping our schedule going with tutoring. Okay, schedule and format. So the schedule we assume is finalized. There's a link to it right there if you need to check it one more time and you're looking at it in that tutor packet as well. But make sure that that's all okay and immediately speak to Anna, direct message her if you see any problems there. 2 rooms we'll be using are HC 113 and 114. We do have HC 112 as a backup if needed. So that space is reserved for us. So if you ever find a night where you are kind of reaching your limit with capacity, you can tear off one group or one course and send them over to 112 to work there. If you do that, make sure you notify your lead tutor so they know what to do and put a sign up on the door so that any students who come later on will know where to go to find you. We have 5 carts, so learn about your cart and where it exists, and also the cabinets, because the cabinets are where you're going to find answer keys. So make sure you locate those things and know where they're at. We also have laptops. Those are good for you to know that they're available for student use if needed for a few of them, and then the rest of them we use for sign-in. You can read through some of this about format and the background, especially this why we do the formats that we've done. I think the one piece on the why that I'll just say is that we've kind of tried to create the best model we can for now, but we can flex. So if you see something that's not working in the format that you're in, either face-to-face or online or hybrid, let us know because we will try to flex to that. The format that we currently have is Monday, Tuesday early, and Wednesday are completely face-to-face. And then the other sessions are face-to-face and hybrid. And you can see that on the schedule. So reading the schedule, you're going to see that it's room-based. You'll see that this is how we're using the rooms. It's really nice. We're in 113 and 114, so we'll be right next to each other and able to help one another. But that will be the general breakdown for the rooms. I talked about formatting. The one thing that I'll maybe just stress is that if you're in a hybrid session where it's face-to-face only for the first part and then hybrid for the last part, make sure that you start that Zoom session only at that hybrid time. Also, student version is just good to know what exists for students. We no longer, if you've been a tutor in the past, we used to have a tab that was for students. Now, instead, we're linking to handouts. So on the tutor schedule, you'll see a link to those handouts. It's also on the Ask website. And that's where the students will get their particular information about their course. So go ahead and go to that student handout, check out what students in your courses are seeing and how we're advertising that. I'm not going to go to links because I don't want anything to stop this, but go and check that out on your own. Student attendance for face-to-face. Again, now we're not doing reservations. If we get really busy, we might return to that. But currently there's no reservations needed to come to Math Lab. Students can just come, help with making sure that they sign in and out. This is particularly, I should have put that under the online because the students online are the ones who are notorious about not signing out, but help your students in the room to also get a sign out time. That's really important for when students request a tutor. We want to see how long they've used our services. So getting both a timestamp on the way in and out is helpful. Online tutors or students can help by going to tutorlabs.bethel.edu. You're also going to see on the student handouts, we have a QR code that they can directly go to the Math Lab sign in. So they can do that for online. There'll be a welcome screen that we'll talk about in a minute that you'll be putting up to direct them into the particular breakout room that they'll use. So for more details on the whole thing, again, use that checklist to guide you and to give you kind of all the things that you should be doing. It would be worth you kind of reading through the checklist the first time, even if you're returning, to just see, oh yeah, I should be doing all these things. And then you can use it as a reference after that. Tutor Labs and Zoom sessions. So there'll be one Tutor Lab session per room. So that's for the attendance for both tutors and students. And then an attendance laptop will be in each room. And then one Zoom session per room with breakouts happening for each course. So the room manager will be the one starting that Zoom session and putting up a welcome window. You can click there to see what those look like, but they basically direct students to how they will pick their breakout rooms. Again, only start that Zoom session at that hybrid time so that students aren't entering early and not being served. Then everyone, if you're in a hybrid time, make sure you're watching those breakout sessions and watching for students coming into them. I think we're doing a better job with that. In the past, we had some complaints about not being served or not being noticed. So continue that good work of making sure that each student that comes in online is welcomed and then is served and feels like they're kind of part of this session. Well, good. I made it through my part, so I'm going to pass the baton over to Anna for the next section.
I think we've gone over quite a few of these things already, but just to kind of reiterate and then give a little more explanation to some of the resources that we have available for you guys as tutors. So we have the tutor folder that Professor Conrath was talking about before, which has access to a lot of documentation of how to tutor and room maps and things like that. Also a session checklist. Please reference this as you're setting up in particular, but yeah, just throughout the session to make sure you're getting everything done that needs to be done. The maps and overview, just please follow these to keep it consistent for each night. It's nice to have students, they know they're going to the same table or something like that. So be consistent with that, and that's helpful to you as well to know where the different courses are. Those are also posted on the walls within the room, and then there's also a folder within the cabinet that contains those maps. We also have answer keys and textbooks available for all of our courses. So we have physical copies of these available in the cabinet and in the car. but also online within the course folders. Please let me know if you don't have access to any of these. Also, as you're tutoring, be careful with these. You want to keep these contacts. You don't want students having access to these. So can anyone fill in the blanks of our little statement there? They should be in your arm or in the cabinet. We don't want to leave these out and have students have access to them. Even especially with online access now, don't make sure you're not having the answer key up available on your laptop and then walking away from it to have students go over there and look at it. We also have a story of someone who had a answer key under her arm and then ended up taking it home with her, and professors were a little more lenient to give us access to answer keys after that, which I know I found extremely helpful. So just being particularly careful with those. There's also a few other resources to help with tutoring. There's a Mathematica helps tab on the schedule. So particularly if you're tutoring Calc 1 and Calc 2, have Mathematica available to be able to look at on your own screen, I think is helpful to test out a few things, but also just have an understanding of Mathematica, because there are quite a few students who come in having questions about that. So being up to date on how Mathematica works. And there's a lot of other resources about how to tutor if you're having struggle tutoring particular students, group tutoring, things like that. Also, feel free to use the other tutors in your room with you. You have a lot of very experienced tutors and lead tutors who are willing to help. So don't be afraid to ask questions, or even as you're tutoring with someone, if you're not sure how to do a particular problem, ask questions.
Okay, I'm going to go quickly through the emergency sub procedures, kind of COVID procedures. If you're sick or will miss math lab, please notify your lead tutor, Ruth Livingston, and myself. If you're quarantining, notify those same people. And then let us know if you're sick or not. You know, if you're not sick and you just want to tutor, we can probably work out the details for you to continue tutoring in a virtual format. But sometimes that takes quite a bit of work. So please, as soon as you find out that you need to isolate or quarantine, let us know so we can work out arrangements. How to get a sub quickly. So you'll need a sub if you're sick or not able to work out an online arrangement, or this is also for just in general. If you need a sub because you see up ahead, try to plan really carefully. If you know, oh, my brother's getting married this weekend, I can't work this Sunday session, try to get that taken care of as soon as possible. You're going to find in the personnel tab the people who work for your specific courses, and you could directly message some of those people. Otherwise, you can just reply all on one of the math lab emails that's been sent out, or send it to the whole personnel list to try to get a sub for yourself. So here's just some things you can read if you come to that need of getting a sub. Sending the email, the second email is most important, that you then email once you have a sub, myself and Vicki Sanford, who's in Ask. That's so that she is aware of any pay changes, because she watches those really carefully. And then for your room manager to just know that there's going to be a different tutor working in your room. It's kind of nice also, especially if you do a good job of getting your sub early, that you also email your sub so that they know that that's coming up. You're going to remember it, but they might forget that they're covering for you. So I'm going to give it back to Anna.
Just to overview a little bit about session procedures, please come early and help to set up for Math Lab, particularly within the first few weeks. Tutors are getting acclimated to how sessions work, and students are getting acclimated to how sessions work. So come at least 15 minutes early to help your lead tutor get set up. You can help put out signs and some of the other things that we talked about, but also to help students with signing in and things like that as well. And then after that, after things start to hopefully get on a roll, you can come 10 minutes early to help set up.
And then there's a little overview of all of the materials and resources available here. You should know about most of these, but just to highlight a few things in particular, for we talked about room maps already, and so you should have signs like these within your cabinet to be able to put on each table according to the room map. And then there's also table signs that look something like, or door signs, sorry, that look something like this, and put those outside of the door each time to make sure that students know what courses are being served for that night. And then in terms of signing in, you should sign in before the session starts. If you're coming early, this shouldn't be a problem. Make sure you're selecting the tutor tab of Tutor Labs on the sign-in laptop. And even just paying attention to students coming in as well, making sure they sign in, but also making sure they sign out as they're leaving. Wear your name tags. It's good for students to know your name and have a face that they can come to. Make sure to greet students, be friendly. We want this to be a welcoming place for them. And especially the first few weeks, it's important that we make a good impression so that students continue to come back to Math Lab. If you have any issues that come up during the session, feel free to email professors during the session, like if there's particular questions that students have questions about and you're not quite able to figure out, there are some professors who will email back during the session, and you might be able to get that question answered for them. There's also, if you're having a particularly slow, if there's also any issues with answer keys or things like that, make sure to tell your lead tutor that and they can leave a comment about it, and then also email the professor directly and hopefully get that resolved, and we'll make a mark in the key. So we know that for the future. If you're having a slow session, here's a few different things you can look over for tutoring, and also just a few different resources to understand about how we can best tutor. And then in terms of ending the session, make sure to end on time. Your room manager should give a 5 or 10 minute warning about when the session will be closing, just to give a heads up to students to ask the last few problems. And we want to be respectful of your time as well about not going over. Make sure you return all answer keys and materials. We've had a few issues with not getting some signs in the past few semesters. So help your lead tutor out and making sure those all get put away. Send any emails if you have any questions. And like Professor Conrad said before, we appreciate when you leave detailed comments. So if you have anything particular that happened, and even anything exciting that happened, or anything that we would want to know about, feel free to leave comments about that.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. We'll pass it on to Grace.
So then just a few things when you're working with the students. For those of you that are working hybrid sessions, make sure you're checking in to make sure there's no students in your breakout rooms, and just be aware of when you're writing on the board, making sure that they can see you. You're writing in a marker that's dark enough for them to see what you're writing on the board. And then just those, especially these first few weeks, have patience when people are figuring out how to sign in with Zoom, and you're figuring out the logistics of even going between breakout rooms and all that. So just be friendly and be helpful. And then when you're working with students, just a reminder that you're there to help them understand the information so they can do well on their tests. You're not there just to do their homework for them. So it's always good to just ask prompting questions and let them work through, and you'll find where they're getting stuck a lot faster when you're asking them questions rather than when you're just giving them step-by-step instructions on how to do things. And then it's always helpful to be aware of what's happening in your course, so you can look through the syllabus if that helps you. I know when I'm working with students, I usually start off by not even asking them what problem they're working on, just asking, hey, what have you been doing in class this week? And they'll give you a quick rundown. And then if you're unsure of how to do something, don't give them an incorrect answer, ask another tutor, ask to even look to see if they have their class notes, and that can give you a refresher. But it's better to say, I'm not sure about that, rather than teach them how to do it incorrectly. And so then just also be aware of the different types of students that you have in a room. Every once in a while, you get a student that wants you to be attached to the hip. They want to run every little question, and then that takes away from working as a group. And the other students that might not be as willing to ask questions right away. So just be aware if you have that student and it seems like they're really not getting things too, you can also notify your lead tutor and they can mention something in the comments, because if that student would be one that would be a good fit for an individual tutor, that's something that they can work out with the Ask Office. And then just with take homes, exams and extra credit, it doesn't happen often, but just to keep something in the back of your mind of if it's something that doesn't look like a homework assignment, just be wary of what you're helping them with. If there's things that we're not supposed to help out with, usually profs are good about emailing the leads or the tutors that are involved in that class saying, hey, this assignment's out there. If students are working on this in math lab, don't give them help. And then just working optimally with students, it's really good if you can get a group of students to work together on the same problem. Then you're also not repeating yourself 10 times throughout the evening, so it saves you a lot of effort. And when students are working together and they're bouncing ideas off of each other, they're going to get a lot more out of that experience as well. So then that goes along with the next point of don't take too long with one problem or one person. And you're just be a lot more efficient throughout the evening if you can get students working together. And then you can check answers, but you're not responsible for guaranteeing that they're going to get 100% on each assignment. So you can say if you'll know the student when they're constantly asking, so I have everything right? You can just say, you have the same answer as I have in the key, but I can't guarantee what the TA is going to give points for, what your prof is looking for. So to the best of my knowledge, you have what is correct. And then you're going to learn a lot by doing it. And use your lead tutor, use your room managers. You're going to learn a lot from watching other people tutor as well. And everyone's there to help out. So don't be afraid to ask questions if you have any at the end of a session.
Thanks so much, Grace. Yeah. Lots of good points, and you can hear from how she talked that she's got experience. So do use other tutors as kind of help as well if you have questions or things that come up. So last section, we're going to have Naomi run through here, and then I just have a few closing comments.
Yeah, so these are expectations that we have just to make the math lab experience effective for both you and the students. So the first one is servant leadership. So approach it from a point of just being a servant to them. We've all been confused on assignments before, so just really validate that it can be confusing and hard, but also that they have the potential to learn it. Technology policy. So we would really like you guys not to be on your cell phones. You guys have been, I'm sure, interacting with people who are on their cell phones, and it seems like they're disinterested in you. So we are paying you to help students. So please do that. Food policy is try not to bring food, but you can bring covered beverages. Be considerate of other tutors. If someone is overwhelmed with students, jump in and help. I have really enjoyed this in my tutoring experience, work together. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 tutors to help on a particular problem, but it's really fun to bounce ideas off of each other. And I think it gives the students an accurate perspective of it takes more than one person sometimes to figure something out. So yeah. Lead tutors are managers, so listen to and respect your lead tutor. They're trying to help you. So if they give you correction or they give you encouragement in certain ways, that's just their way of helping the math lab experience be more effective. And then environment, create a good environment. It's really hard to be productive in an environment that feels stressful or overwhelming. So really try to be encouraging and welcoming and kind, what you would want if you were attending the lab.
Great. Thank you so much, Naomi. So this last part we can finish up here quickly is you can read on your own this pay procedure. So there's even pay details if you want to look at specifics about like room managers or leads or things like that. If you have any pay issues, talk to Vicki Sanford in the Ask Office, as she's the one who will be working with that. More details there. that you can read through. And then the last section here, I just like to copy some of these. Just this morning, I somehow didn't have the fall assessments yet, but this is feedback from people who have come to Math Lab. So these are actual quotes that they've submitted on an assessment that we send out at the end of the semester. So I like to put some of these comments in here just so you can see that some of the things we've talked about up above really do make a difference for students. It also shows some of the student attitudes with some of them being nervous, you know, or feeling like they have dumb questions or things like that. So it kind of gets you into the student head to kind of read through some of these comments. So sometime look at these new ones I added this morning from last spring, and then just also some advice from past tutors that's listed here in this section. And then just some positive experiences from Math Lab, more student comments that are below. So those are good to hear from our customers, what they have thought about us in the past and how you can also help make our place a good and welcoming place. So that's all we have for today. Make sure you record this 45 minutes on your timesheet for Ask. And then also make sure that you let us know if you see any issues or problems. As we start up, we find little things that might be missing or that we could make better for students. So speak up, let us know if you see anything like that or have any needs or have any questions. And I'm looking forward to a really good semester. We had to work really hard to get this team together. And some things fell in place at the last moment. So we're thankful for some of you who joined recently. And so you in particular, let us know if you have questions that come up or if we missed anything for your training. But again, like we mentioned, you're going to learn a lot just by doing. So that's what, when we get feedback from seniors, when they're leaving, they say they learned a lot just by tutoring and also by watching other tutors. So watch how other tutors work with students and learn some of their tips, and you'll grow as well just through the semester of diving in and serving students. And I look forward to hearing about how it all goes in the comments. And I'm thankful for each one of you and the unique contributions that you bring. So thank you so much. Hang around if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a good semester. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yay.